Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't still terrible things happening around the world or in this region. We still have things like human trafficking. And we still have terrible abuse of children. And there are conflicts. And so these are things that we're going to have to tackle and deal with. But you should know that with each successive generation things have improved just a little bit. And over time, that little bit adds to a lot. And it's now up to you, the next generation, to make sure that 20 years from now, or 30 years from now, people look back and say, wow, things are a lot better now than they were back then. And there will still be problems 20 or 30 years from now also. But they will be different problems, because you will have solved many of the problems that exist today. And America wants to be a partner with you in that process, so good luck. Thank you, everybody. Moderator Wu, thank you very much, Mr. President. It's been a wonderful opportunity and we appreciate it very much. President Obama, thank you, everybody. Barack Obama. Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative Town Hall. Delivered November 14, 2014, Yangon University, Rangoon/Yangon, Burma/Myanmar. Myanmar Lu Ngai Myar Mingalarbar. It's wonderful to be back in Myanmar. Everybody. Please have a seat. Have a seat. Oh, we got some signs reform is fake. Change, okay, well, you guys will have a chance to ask questions later. Yeah. You can put them away. That's why we're here for a town hall. See, that's the thing, when you have a town hall. You don't have a protest because you can just ask the questions directly. Two years ago, I was the first American president to visit this country. And I was deeply moved by the generous hospitality that greeted us here, and the sight of children waving the flags of both of our nations. And I was inspired by the incredible diversity and culture. And the various religious sites from different faiths and communities. And I was inspired again today, when I had the opportunity to visit the Secretariat, the birthplace of modern Burma. The blueprint for democracy, a home to Burmese, Chinese, Indians, Buddhists, Muslims, Hindus. And Christians who live together peacefully, an incredible example of multicultural and multi-faith diversity and tolerance. And it's a profound symbol of this country's rich diversity and this region's potential. Whenever I travel the world, from Europe to Africa, South America to Southeast Asia, one of the things I most enjoy doing is meeting young men and women like you. It's more fun than being in a conference room. And it's also more important because you are the young leaders. Who will determine the future of this country and this region. So I'm going to keep my remarks short at the top, because I want to take as many questions and comments from you. As President of the United States, I've made it a priority to deepen America's Ties with Southeast Asia in particular, with the young people of Southeast Asia. And I do this for reasons that go beyond the fact that I spent some of my childhood in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia. And that gives me a special attachment, a special feeling for Southeast Asia and this region. But I do it mainly because the 10 nations of ASEAN are home to about 1 in 10 of the world's citizens. About 2/3 of Southeast Asia's population is under 35 years old. So this region a region of growing economies and emerging democracies. And a vibrant diversity that includes oceans and islands, and jungles, and cities. And peoples of different races and religions and beliefs. This region will shape the 21st century. And that's why I launched the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative to deepen America's engagement. With the next generation of leaders in government and civil society, in education, and in entrepreneurship. And more than 10,000 young leaders like you have joined this Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative network. Working to solve the challenges and seize the opportunities of this dynamic region in a spirit of mutual cooperation and respect. So earlier this year, I held a town hall just like this one, in Malaysia. And today, I'd like to take our next steps together with you. When I took office nearly 6 years ago, I said the United States would extend our hand to any nation willing to unclench its fist. And here, after decades of authoritarian rule, we've begun to see significant progress in just a few years. there is more of a sense of hope in Myanmar, that was once so closed to the world. About the role that it can now play in the region and in the world. But we know that a journey to progress is not completed overnight. There are setbacks and false starts, and sometimes even reverses. And that was true in America during our 238-year history. It's happened here in the past 2 or 3 years. We've seen some progress, and we should acknowledge that progress. We also know, though, that despite the fact that political prisoners have been released, and people are more engaged in political dialogue, there's a parliament and civil society is emerging. Despite all that, some reforms have not come quickly enough. There are still attacks against journalists and against ethnic minorities. America is still deeply concerned about the humanitarian situation in Rakhine State. And the treatment of minorities who endure discrimination and abuse. On this visit, I've met separately with President Thein Sein and Daong San Suukyi, as well as members of parliament, and civil society leaders. And we discussed key reforms that have to be made to ensure that human rights and freedoms are respected. And the people of this country can reach for their rightful place in the region and the world. And I was also proud to announce that the Peace Corps will come here. To Myanmar, to deepen the ties between our people. It gives an extraordinary opportunity for young Americans to interact with young people here in Myanmar. and that people-to-people exchange is often as important or more important as government-to-government exchanges. So progress is not inevitable. History does not always march forward. History can travel sideways and sometimes backwards. Building trust after years of conflict takes time. Being able to look past the scars of violence takes courage. Securing the gains of freedom and democracy requires good faith and strength of will. And tolerance and respect for diversity, and it requires vigilance from all citizens. The American people know well that rights and freedoms are not given. They have to be won through struggle and through discipline, and persistence, and faith. And it's often young people who have led these struggles. Who have compelled us to slowly but surely perfect our own union in America over time. Now, I understand there's a Burmese saying. I've got to make sure that I say this right. And goat me the. Daying help me out. Is that right? Tet naying by our yok. So for those Americans who don't speak Burmese as well as I do, that means. Dive until you reach the sand, climb until you reach the top. Keep persevering. And America is committed to helping the young people of this nation and this region climb until you reach the top. We believe in this nation. That's why I've come and visited twice in the last few years. Because we see a future where democratic institutions can be accountable and responsive, where political activists are free. where elections are fair, where journalists can pursue the truth, where ethnic minorities can live without fear. So we're betting on this country, but we're also betting on this region. Because we see young people of different nations and religions and ethnicities who are eager to come together and address all the challenges that are out there: environmental protection, human rights, improving education. Combating poverty, advocating for a greater role for women in business, in government, and in society. Increasing resilience in the face of natural disasters. Spurring economic progress so more young people can follow in your footsteps and get a good education and have opportunity. We see young leaders who embrace the diversity of this region not as a weakness. But as a strength, and who realize that even though we are all individually different and come from different traditions and different communities, we're stronger when we work together. So the future of this region, your region, is not going to be determined by dictators or by armies. It's going to be determined by entrepreneurs and inventors and dreamers and people who are doing things in the community. And you're going to be the leaders who make that happen. Your generation has greater potential to shape society than any generation that's come before, because you have the power to get knowledge from everywhere. And you have more sophistication and experiences than your parents or your grandparents. And you have now the chance to share knowledge and experiences. With other young people all across this region and around the world. And that wasn't true 20 years ago or 50 years ago.